Welcome to TomBecka.com, where everyone's exceptional and everyone has a story to tell. And this is a fun story. This is an interesting story. This is a story that, well, quite honestly, may be nothing to you, but personally, I just don't get it. I'm talking about tattoos. I don't understand why anybody would get a tattoo, especially numerous tattoos that are visible from everybody. If you get a little tattoo and it's somewhere hidden that you just show, and it's just, you and your lover, that I guess is cool. Myself, as I say in the podcast, I have a fear of commitment. But so, that sort of a thing. But I don't understand people that get the sleeves and tattoos, and so that everywhere you look, there's a tattoo there. Personally, it's not for me. So one night when I'm having a single malt scotch and enjoying a conversation with Lyndsey here, who has all of these tattoos, I started asking her why a beautiful young woman would do this to herself. And Lyndsey's not only a tattoo enthusiast, she's also a tattoo artist. In this, we get into body modification. We talk about piercings and stuff like that, and why people do it, the appeal of it, and why it continues to be an art form that continues to grow. It was a fun interview to do. It was a fun conversation to have, and I hope you enjoy it here on TomBecka.com. Now, you're not the most amped up person I've ever seen, but you've got a lot of tattoos.
Yes,
Why?
I do. Well, for me, it's a way of expression and a little bit of respect for fellow artists in the world. I have a lot of Alphonse Mucha, and it's because I respect and study his art. And it's kind of my style of being a tattoo artist. I like that feminine, whimsical view.
Yeah, because you're a tattoo artist, too. You not only have tattoos, but you also do tattoos. And I'll get to that a little bit later on here. But I want to find, because you and I have had this conversation before, in that, first of all, I have a fear of commitment, so I could never get a tattoo.
We talked about it, yes.
Yeah, no, that's another issue altogether. but secondly, it's also a thing where I look back on the clothes I was wearing when I was 18. Platform shoes, bell bottoms, the haircut and the glasses and the styles. And I'm thinking to myself, if you get a tattoo when you're 18, 19 years old, you're wearing the same clothes you were wearing,
Well, you're still wearing platforms.
Well, I am actually. I'm short.
I see the goldfish. They're swimming around.
I'm short. Yes, smart ass. But you know what I mean? In other words, yeah, right now, this may be how you feel, but are you going to feel this way in 10, 15, 20 years?
A lot of my choice has been over time. I didn't start getting larger tattoos or big pieces till I was older in life. I thought about them. They all have very deep meaning to me. I've never gone and got the stupid shit-face tattoo in the middle of the night. I've never put anyone's name on me except for my mother's, because I know that how life changes and you get put through roller coasters, and one minute you can love someone and then next minute not.
You say you didn't get any of these bigger tattoos until later in life. How old were you?
My first tattoo, I was 18. I got everybody does it on their 18th birthday. You get the small little one, but I was probably about 25 when I started getting bigger pieces.
Did you always want tattoos? Or at what age did you think you said, boy, I can hardly wait till I'm 18 so I get a tattoo?
Probably I started piercing at 12. I started getting all the earrings, stuff like that. So I've always been a person of expression. But tattoos, probably about high school. Mm-hmm. When I lived in Europe for a while. It's a little less taboo over there and more accepted, so kind of turned me on a little bit. Okay,
so you're 18 and you go in for your first tattoo. What is it? Where is it? And what were you going through?
It was, I'm just going to get a tattoo. Someone's buying me a tattoo. So I have a little sun on the top of my neck. A little different. I look at it now. I wouldn't cover it. I'm not upset about it. I'm proud of it being the first, but it's not an exceptional tattoo. Wow, ooh. Mm-hmm.
It's an 18th birthday tattoo.
It is, yes. And that's what they tend to do.
I've been told by people that are really into tattoos that it's addictive. That once you get one, you want more and more and more.
A little bit, yeah.
How many tattoos do you have right now?
Well, now I started to consider them pieces, but if I was to count them, probably about 20.
Mm-hmm. When you say pieces, what do you mean?
Well, there's individual small there's small tattoos, but now people start to make them into a full arm.
You connect them or whatever, so you have a sleeve and that sort of thing.
But now a lot of people don't do the little tattoos. They come in for a full-fledged art piece, and they want something that we design them to go completely around the arm. Or
Okay, but like you said, these are visible tattoos. Why did you decide to do them so that people can see them? In other words, wouldn't you think, again, just my way of thinking, if you're going to go and get the tattoos, fine, get them on like your upper arm or, areas of your body that can be easily covered so that you're not living with that out in the open like that for the rest of your life.
I started that way, but when I made it my career, it was a little more acceptable to add to the body, add to areas that were more exposed, because it's not, you don't get as many judgments when you are the artist yourself.
And you say you made it your career, so you are a tattoo artist.
I am a tattoo artist.
When did you decide you wanted to be a tattoo artist?
I've always been an artist my whole life, and as I probably reached about probably high school, I started considering it. My friend, she got offered an apprenticeship, and I was kind of jealous, and I was like, God, I kind of want to do this. And then about a year in, she said, hey, we're looking for another artist. Bring in your art portfolio. And I was accepted for an apprenticeship.
My image of a tattoo artist is kind of a big, burly, tattooed up guy, maybe, isn't, hygiene may not be his, strong point, who's out there giving tattoos. Yeah, I know. That's my image. You're a very attractive woman who's doing this. Are there a lot of women tattoo artists, or is it more the big burly guy that I was thinking of being a tattoo artist?
There are a lot of, it is pretty much men, like mostly men artists, but women are breaking through, and there's a lot more women artists, and there's been a lot more respect for women artists, and there's people nowadays that look for women artists.
Why?
That I can't answer. I don't know. Some feel more comfortable being with female artists. We tend to be a little bit more friendly, forward with them, and more understanding.
Yeah.
I don't want to step on toes by saying anything about how some artists I've heard how they act, towards their clients, but women tend to be just a little bit more laid
gentle,
back,
maybe
gentle. Yes.
Are people nervous when they? I imagine their first tattoo, they're nervous. But even like with people that are going for their second, third, fifth, 10th, whatever tattoos, do they still tend to get nervous when they go in?
Yes. I've had a client come in. Well, it wasn't my client; it was a fellow artist client, and she was so nervous. And she's like, "I have 8 tattoos. I don't even know why I'm this nervous." But then when she gets it done, we like to, like where I work, the shop I'm at, we tend to make people a little bit more comfortable right away, just because we have a sense of humor. We all hang out. We make light of it. It is a big deal, but it's not a big deal to the point where you need to be like shaking in the corner. But after her tattoo, she went on our webpage and she's like, I was so nervous. I've had so many tattoos and they were great people and they did nothing but make me feel comfortable.
Now, would you ever, if somebody was really nervous about getting a tattoo, would you tell them, hey, you know what? Why don't you go home, think about it, relax, and if you still want it, then come back? Or do you just say, hey, look, a gig's a gig, it's a paycheck, and do it even if they're like nervous and apprehensive?
No, I would never do that. Usually with a customer, age is a big deal, what they want to get done.
What do you mean age is a big deal? You got to be 18 or older, right?
Well, with parent signature, they can be younger. Uh-huh. And that's usually left up to the artists and their discretion on what they want to do. 10-year-old could come in and be like, I want a tattoo. And if the parent signs, we'll do it.
You would do it?
I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
No.
You wouldn't?
I would not. No. I'm pretty strict on, I won't do anyone under 17. Mm-hmm. But 18 is usually the age that they need to be without a parent consent. But it depends, like, if you come in and want a small tattoo and you're freaking out, nervous, I would tell you need to think about it. I had a customer, she's 18, and she was super nervous, but she was more nervous about the needle. They're usually not just nervous about the tattoo itself. They're nervous about what they're about to experience physically.
Because people actually have a real fear of needles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
One of my fellow artists, he's extremely fearful of needles, like at the doctor. And he says that they laugh at him every time because he cringes, but he's completely covered with tattoos. It's a mental state, for sure.
Is that what that is? I mean, is it a mental thing? In other words, is it people maybe that are afraid of needles trying to overcome their fear of something? Or is it, I mean, in other words, what are you trying to, be a little pop psychologist here for a second. Okay. What is it about a person that's all tattooed up? Are they covering something up? Are they trying to hide something? Are they, than somebody that doesn't have a tattoo?
No, everybody expresses themselves completely different. I mean, there's people that are into getting piercings. There's people into cycling. There's people into working out. Everybody has their way of expressing themselves and even dealing with emotions. But it all depends on it's individuality. And that's the thing with tattoos. That's why some don't and some do, is individuality. And for me, my expression for my individuality is...
I always love that. Oh, I'm getting a tattoo to show my individuality, just like everybody else. I mean, if you're getting a tattoo, are you not just following along with the crowd? I mean, how is that?
But you're not, because you're getting pieces that are for yourself. Like, I design and choose a lot of what's on my body. I don't have a crazy chick riding a rocket ship out into space. I don't have, I've heard some pretty embarrassing tattoos and seen some pretty embarrassing tattoos, and it's all for effect. It's all for what they can get out of people's reactions, and that's very true. But then there's the people that they do it to, like me, Alphonse Muka, one of my ultimate favorite artists. You know that.
Yeah.
And I have his artwork on me because, it's on my wall at home too, but I think it's beautiful, and it's something that I will always have on my wall at home, and I'll always have on my body to show and express how I feel about that artist.
And again, I go back to the earlier, my own view on this. And by the way, people listening to this podcast that are big tattoo fans and have a lot of tattoos are going to hate me for saying this earlier. but I go back to that, and I look back and I think, well, you know what? I used to like certain types of music. I used to like, certain movies, TV shows, and then you go back to it years later and it's like, oh, geez, yeah, no. The same thing here. I mean, you say, okay, this is your art, but attitudes change, your styles change. I mean, even great artists like Picasso, or Monet, I mean, although they had a basic line of what type of art they did, they went through different periods where they were doing different stuff.
Oh yeah, different styles, but these are pieces. The Muka pieces I have are pieces that fit my style of art that I do. I also do printmaking, which is what Muka was known for. You look at like a jazz musician. He has his own set of music, but they're all inspired by different artists, different jazz musicians, and what they grew up listening to, and inspired them to create what they did. And it's kind of the same for me, because my tattoo style is kind of on that elegant, whimsical look.
What did your parents say when you first started getting all these tattoos?
Oh my gosh. My mother was not the happiest. My brother had some before me, so he kind of prepped her for it. My dad kind of just knew that it was going to happen. He had a phone call. He was out of town, and I called. I still lived at home, and I called him. I was like, I got a tattoo. They got over it. My mother came to the point where she's like, I just want to shake you and tell you to stop doing it. And I kept doing it. My brother did it. We're the only 2 out of the 4 children that actually have tattoos, but they accept it, and they're just very happy that we don't have any crazy tattoos. Like the legs on the arms, where you lift up the arm and the man's armpit is the leg's crotch.
Yeah.
Can I say that?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want. It's a podcast. Yeah, so okay, yeah, so
but
yeah.
There's ridiculous tattoos, but we never chose to get ridiculous tattoos.
If somebody wanted a really ridiculous tattoo, would you also say, look, dude, come on, really? Do you really want to make your armpit look like a woman's crotch? I mean, would you try to talk him out of it, or do you just say, this is how this guy chooses to express himself, and he's going to regret it later? But
they're going to regret it. There's some that, you do names, and I try to at least kind of mention, are you sure? Is this what you really want to do? I'll even try to kind of angle them at different place on the body or do something in a different color that makes it, if anything, I hate to tell people, hey, if your relationship doesn't work out, but you do have to let them know that, hey, this will make it a little bit easier to cover up if anything does go wrong. But that's all you can do in this job. It's, you do what people ask you to do, and you at least try to give it some type of artistic side and, make it beautiful is mainly what I care about, is making it a good tattoo.
Now, tattoos obviously are a lot more mainstream than they were years ago.
Yes.
But do your tattoos hinder you in other things? In other words, people look at you differently. Do people react to you differently? Has it been difficult to get other jobs? Or maybe, if you meet a guy that maybe doesn't like all the tattoos, has it been a problem?
Well, I have enough now that if they don't like it, they can't really do anything about it. But, yeah, the biggest thing that we always discuss at the shop is people like to think they can touch you, like you're a work of art. They grab your arm, they twist it around, and you're like, I don't know you, and you're touching me. I've been lucky enough that I've managed restaurants with my tattoos. I've seen managers across the board, whether them be in a kitchen or a full-fledged restaurant, and they're covered in tattoos because it's a little more acceptable than it used to be. I've kept mine hidden away enough that they're not on my neck, they're not on my hands, so I can cover them. I can go to church with my mom if I need to. I can go to a wedding, and I can keep them hidden that people don't really know about them. A lot of people are very fascinated by them. My biggest question is, what's the story? I know there's always a story, and they want to know the story between each tattoo and what it means. But I think people, even if they say they're not accepting of them, they're very interested in them.
What is the tattoo that has the most meaning to you?
Sorry, I'm looking at my arms and I'm trying to decide. Probably my biggest one is the two on my wrists. I have lost and I have found. And it reminds me that in life you may feel lost, but you will always find yourself. And that's probably my biggest one.
You talked about people like to touch your tattoos and stuff like that. I read an article a while back where it said that guys are more free. They feel they hit on women with tattoos more than a woman that doesn't have a tattoo. Basically, they think that a woman with tattoos is a little bit looser, a little bit, a little bit.
Tom, I am.
I'm not saying you are.
I know, but I'm like, oh, okay, we're gonna go here.
No, but I mean, but is that your experience?
They think you're a little more exotic.
Yeah.
With me, I've been told when people get to know me, you're a sweetheart, but then from on the outside, they think I'm a bad girl and I'm like all about getting wild and crazy, and that's not it. But that's what a lot of people will assume they get out of you. And then they meet you and you're like, oh, you're so nice. Oh, you have a college degree? What? Oh. That's what I'm used to.
Yeah, but aren't you sort of putting that image out there? Because that's sort of what, especially...
That's them. That's if they want to believe that about people without getting to know people. I don't judge anybody.
Really?
I don't.
Really? Okay, so if you saw somebody wearing a big suit and tie, and you would not put an image on them as opposed to a guy that's wearing a flannel shirt?
No.
You're thinking if you saw those two guys side by side, you would think they're the same type of person.
Well, because you don't know. One could have just got off work and one's been off work. One's on vacation. You don't know. I don't judge anybody until I get to know them.
Do you think most people are that way?
What, those two people?
No. Do you think most people? In other words, I mean, you understand if people do look at you and say, "Oh, you've got tattoos. You must be fill in the blank." Well,
you know what? And it's hard to answer that question because everyone's different. I mean, if I put off this persona that I'm, well, I don't want to say loose, but if someone says that, oh, this person's hardcore, they're probably mean, they're probably, not happy people because they did this to themselves, then why are you touching me? I think you'd be fearful that I'm going to punch you in the face. Do you know what I mean?
I know you, and you would. So,
yeah.
no, but okay. So, So for you, you don't. None of this matters to you.
I don't dwell on it. I don't. Well, because I have no regrets. Mm-hmm. At this point, I have no regrets, and I don't believe I will. All right. I've picked wisely. I believe.
What about you mentioned piercings? Mm-hmm. Okay. What about piercings? I'm not asking you, if you got piercings all over or anything like that, but that's another part of that same expression. The piercings and tattoos go hand in hand, right?
No, because in our shop we don't do piercings. Oh, excuse me. In my shop we don't do piercings. We're strictly custom shop. Piercings are a different way of expression.
Body modification, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And the way you want to express yourself. There's people that do it because, they've maybe studied a Pacific Islander way of a tradition, and they're like, oh, that's so cool, and they're into it. A lot of it's the look. It's a look, especially with piercings, with stretching and stuff like that. It's just...
Yeah, tattoos I can understand a lot more than the guys with the big earlobes and that are just... What do they call those things? Just the big holes?
Plugs.
The big plugs, and the earlobes are like...
stretch them, yeah.
Yeah, the earlobes are like down to their shoulders. I don't...
and they get extreme.
I know.
It's not my thing. I don't judge them for it. I get... You kind of get into it. And again, also, it's with tattoos. You do go through a type of body modification, and you have endorphins that are released. You go through a type of pain and change, and some people kind of enjoy it.
They enjoy the pain.
Well, yeah, because there's suspension. Your body counteracts this pain, and there is a euphoric feeling.
You're talking about the suspension, the people that put the hooks in their back and then go swinging and stuff from the ceiling.
And those are people that aren't just getting pierced permanently. That's just them going through this expression and experience that I have not tried, but the people I know and friends that I know, it's...
You know people that have done the suspension where they... Because you just talking about this is giving me the willies. Yeah, well, it's like I cannot imagine anybody wanting to do... people that have done that you talk to, that you know.
Oh, yeah.
What do they get out of it?
You'd probably, and if you'd like, I could maybe set that up for you to talk to one of those guys. I know there's Monty and Mike in town, and they do all the suspension shows, and people, they enjoy it, and it's just it's an experience. And I think, especially in life today, experience is everything, because a lot of people don't experience stuff. And a friend of mine, her boyfriend went through it, and it was the biggest thing for him. It meant a lot to him. His experience was like life-changing. But I haven't experienced, so I don't really know the details of what he went through.
Now, I've gone skydiving twice, and I've rappelled down the side of a 30-story skyscraper. So I've done that for experiences. So I guess there'd be other people looking at me saying, what are you, an idiot? What are you, stupid for doing something like that? And so I guess if I'm saying the same thing to the guy with the piercings, you're trying to tell me that's all the same thing.
Adrenaline. Come on, it's life.
Go whitewater rafting. You don't need to be like putting hooks in your back and swinging from the rafters.
For everybody, it's different. Mm-hmm. Everybody, it's different. We all find our niche of what we thrive off of. There's people that do ridiculous things and illegal things, and there's all kinds of things.
Yeah, so
maybe they could afford to get suspended before they could afford to jump out of a plane. Maybe it's just, hey, it's right here, it's easy, it's in front of me.
What? Okay, which brings the question: what does something like that cost to do a suspension?
You know what? I've never actually went to the suspension. I don't know what the cost of it was.
What does a tattoo cost?
It depends on size, place, sessions. Depends on the artist. There's phenomenal artists that can charge an arm and a leg, like someone in California who can charge $600 for a haircut. Mm-hmm. Our shop it starts at a $50 minimum, and that's usually anything quarter size to palm size, depending on the amount of color, detail, everything. It's all based off the image itself. You
mentioned you don't have any tattoos on your neck or anything like that. there are other, especially people in prison, they get tattoos on their face. Would you do it on somebody's face? Would you do it on their neck? Would you do it if it was maybe sort of a gang sort of a tattoo, or there was a message that you didn't agree with? Would you draw the line on that?
Message I don't agree with, I would probably say no. If they get something done that I'm not aware or educated enough to know, I don't know what I would say. I've tattooed faces because I did permanent cosmetics. So
Well, you say, okay, so you've done tattooed faces as far as like eyebrows and that sort of a thing.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not talking about.
But I've never actually tattooed anything like the teardrops or numbers, names, any of that. I've done neck, but that's to each their own. I wouldn't myself, just because I'm not doing it for attention. So if I want to cover up, I have that opportunity to cover up. But people do necks. Males are more into doing the necks and hands. Yeah.
Do you ever have people come in afterwards and ask if you can remove the tattoos? Or do
well, we don't remove them.
I know you don't, but
we sure can cover them.
Yeah.
And yes, we get a lot of cover-ups. Cover-ups are big. And especially because tattoos have changed a lot over the years. Quality of ink, the way needles are made, machines. So a lot of tattoos that were done in the last, 10 to 20 years are a lot different than the tattoos that are made and created now. So you get a lot of people that come in and want stuff fixed or covered or touched up.
I'm going to ask the reverse of a question I was asking a little bit earlier. I mentioned the comment I said I read the article about guys seeing women with tattoos and thinking, maybe they're a little bit easier, Mm-hmm. Do women look at guys with tattoos and think of them differently sexually than they might have if the guy didn't have tattoos showing? In other words, do they look like, ooh, there's a bad boy, sort of a thing, or?
Yes and no. I mean, again, I never judge a book by cover. I tend to date guys with no tattoos, which a lot of people and my friends and family think that's quite weird. But, there is something a little bit more attractive, especially if you're a woman with tattoos. It's something right off the bat you have in common. So you tend to pull to those kind of people.
I imagine that is a conversation starter, though, isn't it? I mean, if you're in a situation just meeting people, we always find ourselves maybe at a cocktail party or in some sort of a social situation where you're doing that awkward small talk, which, you don't know what to say, and so you talk about the weather or something. I would imagine if you've got a sleeve of tattoos, that's definitely a conversation starter, isn't it?
Absolutely, in this generation it is. Yeah. Because it's something, Tom, I don't run into you at the Cork and say, hey, let's talk tattoos. But, we actually did. Never mind, we did.
That was the first time that you and I really started talking, and that was over the tattoos, and we were basically having this conversation.
Yes,
and I said, and we had this conversation. I said, look, I want to bring on the podcast. I want to get you on the show here because I do find it fascinating. Because it is so far out of my area of comfort. Out of my comfort zone. The idea of having, especially the number of tattoos that you have and the visible of tattoos that you have. I will admit there was one time in my life where, actually it was after I rappelled down the side of that 30-story building, that we went to a tattoo. I and some friends went to a tattoo parlor, and I was trying to get a tattoo. But they were booked and couldn't get me in. And by the next day, the adrenaline had worn off, and it was like, yeah, no, I'm good. But I will admit that after the adrenaline of going down the 30-story building, I would have gotten a tattoo of the building on my arm and, something like that. But after the next day, it was like, nah, I'm good.
Didn't you also say you still maybe get it, though?
Yeah, no.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. Just checking.
No,
I thought
no.
maybe one night you said that you would maybe still get it. But that's adrenaline.
Well, you never say never, but I don't. Yeah, let's put it this way: it's not on my bucket list at this point.
Well, life makes you do crazy things because and I'm sure that's why half of America has names of a girl they just met on their body that they're trying to cover. It's the adrenaline of love.
Yeah,
it's the adrenaline of an experience that you don't want to forget.
Okay, what is the biggest misconception about tattoos? What do you think people? Because you and I have had this conversation, and you know where I'm coming from when it comes to it. But what does the average person think about it? Like comments that you hear from people.
You know, there is the conception that you are bad boy, bad girl. Depending on the quality of the tattoo, there's people you see and you wonder, did they do prison time? Usually there's a rebellion. It's something that person rebels in some sort of way in their life.
Are you a rebel?
I was before I had tattoos. No, since I started getting tattoos, I pretty much started getting tattoos when I got it together. And that's probably why I don't have ridiculous tattoos. I've been offered and asked to get ridiculous tattoos, and I've said no. Working in a shop and having apprentices that want to practice and want to put stupid things on you. And
like what?
The best one was an apprentice asked to actually put a stamp that said tramp in it on the tramp's tramp stamp
there
shop.
you go.
Yeah,
there,
and I was like, no. And they're like, why? We let you practice on us. And I was like, well, you're idiots. Like, thank you. I appreciate it, but I would never let anyone put anything on me unless you have at least 5 years experience. You know, but some people just get tattooed to get tattooed. Mm-hmm. You know, I've tattooed a band that came in town, and they were like going through Nebraska, and we did corn husks on them. You know, they were collecting tattoos across the world. They had stuff from Australia. They had stuff everywhere that represented where they were at.
Where they were, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You know, it's just it's a collection. It's like that Illustrated Man book, you know. It's just...
If somebody's listening to this and thinking about getting their first tattoo, what's the one thing they ought to know?
Think about it. Truly think about it. As long as you need to. Because a lot of people like to pick stuff, I hate to say it, Pinterest. I mean, there's the standard, like, all-American, especially girl tattoos. There's a list of probably about 10 that they all get. And I'll tattoo one girl, and then her friend wants it the next week. And it's like, you all have the same tattoo. There's no individuality there. Mine are all designed one of a kind. That's why our shop, we prefer to do custom tattoos. We'd rather you give us an idea and let us put a spin on it and a play on it so it's not like everybody else's.
You say you're an artist. Is it just tattoos now, or are you doing other art too, or?
Yeah, I do printmaking and watercolors is what I do on my own personal time.
Do you want to be a professional artist? Do you want to make your living as an artist, or is the artist just sort of a thing you do when you're not doing tattoos?
Oh, no, I want to be an artist. I stopped tattooing for a few years to get my art degree, just because I wanted to touch on some other medias, just to see what's out there. You learn a lot. You go to college, you do color theory. There's a lot of different things you can pick up. I'd like to tattoo for the rest of my life, but I know that things can happen. I mean, you work with your hands. Things can come on with the future that could keep me from doing it, so I want to have other opportunities. I wanted to be a children's book illustrator. That was my plan if the tattoo thing didn't work out. I just kind of enjoy doing a lot of different things. I'll try anything. The reason I love tattooing is every day you get tested. You have someone comes in with a new idea, or they want a new style that you're not familiar with, so you have to educate yourself and you have to try it and you have to push yourself, because muscle memory and education, you're not used to doing that. So when you actually get to sit there and try something new, it's kind of exciting and makes it like starting a new job. You're like, oh, this is so different than what I do. And then when that customer comes in, that client sees what you do and they're in love with it, you glow. It's exciting. It never ends.
There you have it. Lyndsey, her passion for tattoos. I admire anybody that has a passion for something, anybody that really has something that speaks to them, has a calling in that. And Lyndsey obviously enjoys her work. She obviously loves her tattoos, and God love her for it. But like I said, not necessarily, as they used to say, not necessarily my cup of tea. But that's what makes the world go around. I hope you enjoyed this interview. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. And join us again every Sunday when we bring in a new, interesting person here on TomBecka.com.